What's up, everyone? Welcome to another episode of Sports Card Madness. I'm here with Matt Payne. This is a cool one. So every now and then we let fans of the pod come on because we think it's a good way to understand what's happening on the ground of the hobby. What are their concerns? What keeps them up at night? What are they interested in? So Matt expressed interest to come on, and I thought it'd be awesome to have it on. And I actually think this will be really useful because Matt has a seven-figure AI consulting company, and I think he can comment on a lot of the trends in the hobby and whether or not AI is going to impact them. And he was also a machine learning engineer at Capital One for many, many years. So it'd be pretty cool. And he's also a vintage collector like me. So he's got some thoughts on that. So, Matt, welcome on, man. Welcome to the pod.
Thank you. Yeah, thanks for having me. Excited to chat about, all those things that you mentioned and hopefully dive in pretty deep.
Sweet. Yeah. So the AI thing is funny. We've done a couple episodes on this now, and we get a lot of comments like AI will never replace humans. You know, it's impossible. Or Nat Turner was actually on the show and he said AI can never completely do, what we do, especially with autographs. And, I posed the question out there. I'm like, well, if we can tell if a tennis ball is out of bounds from a computer, we can probably tell if a card's centered. I mean, this is just cards here, guys. Like, so they might be right. We might be in a cyborg moment, but what do you think about AI and how it's going to impact sports cards?
Yeah, I mean, I from firsthand experience have seen how these AI models interact with grading cards. I've seen it directly, and it is better than most people think. It is really good. There aren't many parts of the sort of grading equation when you take into account things like edges and corners and centering that are honestly complex at all for an AI model to understand. It is usually more of an equation of, does the data that you have align with the actual grades? As we know that, when humans do grading, they sort of they don't make mistakes, but they sort of change the criteria based on the person. And that is sort of represented in the data that you see.
Hmm.
And so it really is more of, can you get a quality data set of, here are my scans of cards, here's the grade that they should be. And if you can do that, you can actually do grading at a fairly high level. There's only a few parts of it that are honestly complex at all. And those are really the bulk of the effort when you talk about, can I sort of identify these features of a card and then sort of grade them on a scale?
Interesting. So what you're saying is that, I mean, forget about what the people have said. You're actually witnessing it getting done and getting it
Yes.
done accurately in a statistically relevant way.
Mhm.
We won't name the companies or anything, but you've seen it and you've seen it done well, right?
Yeah, especially for things like centering, corners, creases, those that are like very identifiable on the
Yeah.
surface, those are honestly a breeze. If you have enough data to do them, they're very
Well, I mean,
easy.
that's sort of black and white. I mean, centering is quite literally a measurement,
Yeah.
and you can do that with those, that plastic thing you get for $1. Like, I'll
Yeah.
actually go on eBay and hold that up against, like I'll put it on my computer to the exact specs of that, and I can tell if something on eBay meets it or not. It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
I mean, that's not like AI, but if I could do that with my eyeballs, I'm sure a machine has no problem. The corners and edges too. I mean, it's really like there's no art to that. It's like
Yeah.
it's either soft or
Yeah.
hard, and to a degree, either way. Same thing with the centering. The problem, I think, will be autographs, especially like Michael Jordan, where 95% of them are not fake is the wrong word, but 95% of them are rejected from JSA. So meaning they're not beyond a reasonable doubt. And it'd be interesting to see like what a machine could come up with there. There's the obvious stuff. You could tell if it's like an auto pen, right,
Yeah.
versus live signature. I think AI can do that. That's not a problem. Now, understanding like the full flow and it's not somebody in the Philippines just doing 50 of them,
Yeah.
that's a little bit different.
Yeah, autographs are way harder than grading a card for a couple of reasons. I mean, a lot of my work on the AI side does focus on image and data matching. So that is sort of the style of AI that you would want to do for autographs, which is you take an autograph in, you sort of data match it to another image of an autograph, and you try to feel if it's real or fake. From there, one of the problems is you just don't have as much data as you would for the grading stuff. When you do
Right.
grading with AI, you can have hundreds of thousands of scans of cards that are graded. With autographs, it's on a per player basis, and you just don't have as much.
Right.
The other problem being these autographs with the way that players sign their autographs differently, over time or in a rush or whatever, it is so hard. There's so much variance in the way that they sign. Think about players like Dennis Johnson, who I have a ton of Dennis Johnson autographs. They all look so different.
Yeah.
There's just not enough data there to build a relationship between the real versus the fake autographs with the machine.
Too many
The autograph
variables.
stuff is way harder than the
Yeah, and the players nowadays, some of them like Cole Anthony, for example, his signature is like CU.
yeah,
It's like there's
yeah,
not even like a ton of data there to pick apart, you
yeah.
know? And then,
It's
as you
so
said, you've
hard.
got your in-person rush signature, your sit-down type of signature. That seems more difficult, but I absolutely think that you could do the centering, the edges, and the corners. So it's interesting that you brought up autographs. I know that you're a vintage autograph collector. That's kind of my jam. I've got the 86 Fleer set
Yeah.
autographed. I've got the 69 Topps NBA set autographed, all of them slabbed and everything. And PSA's been pretty crazy lately, especially like over the winter. Things sort of turned on a dime, and
Yeah.
they started, instead of just saying, it might be good, might be not. Here's the back with shipping. They're just kind of like, oh, let's fail it. It's been
Yeah.
crazy. And honestly, like the past week, I've seen them fail Kareem signatures, which it's very common knowledge. You go to Kareem's charity, you go to his website,
Yep.
pay the fee,
Pay the
signs the
fee,
card,
send it off.
sends it back.
Yep.
He's been doing that for two
Yeah.
decades.
Yeah.
So they're not fake, And I looked at it, it wasn't fake. He even included the receipt there, and it's crazy. So Nat Turner was on the show, and I asked him about this because it's bothering me. It's bothering a lot of people, and he's going to look into it. So hopefully they get their act together. But how do you feel about this whole thing?
Yeah. I mean, I recognize that authenticating autographs to me is probably the hardest thing when you think about like businesses in the hobby to do. I mean, it is so incredibly hard. If you put an autograph in a Facebook group and say, is this real or not? You're going to get 50% of people say it is, 50% say it isn't. Like, it is so incredibly hard to do that, even with, these companies that are, sitting around and they have a bunch of different people look at it and they all sort of give their opinion and go from there. It's so hard to do that I don't blame any of these companies for, you know, I'd rather they were on the safe side. I think we would both agree, rather that they were not authenticating autographs that were fake. My problem is all around the fact that I am going to get charged for that in a lot of instances. And so it really makes it hard to authenticate autographs that are more on the lower end. If you have an autograph that authenticated is worth $100 and you paid, let's say $30 for it raw, why would you take it and authenticate it? Because if you fail it, you're gonna be in a bad place.
That's
And so
actually an
for some
important message
autographs,
because we get a lot of noobs, like new collectors on here that just like, I got all this old stuff, I got this signed stuff. The first thing you got to do is just go on eBay, and if you got like an old card you got signed in the 80s, like junk wax
yeah,
era, just go see what it sells for. Like if it's like a Wade Boggs or a Ryan Sandberg autograph, or Mike Schmidt or something like that, just see, does it sell for like $50 or $100? Then it's probably not worth sending to PSA, because you're just not going to add a ton of value. You're risking
the
paying,
risk is
30,
way too high.
30, 40
Yeah,
bucks to ship that thing, and
yeah,
insure it and all of that, and it's just not worth it. Now, yes, if you've got like a Jordan card,
yeah,
signed all day
yeah,
long, if you think that's legit, that's worth the risk, because you're going to spend whatever, $50 depending on the card, could be up to
yeah,
2,000 on the gamble, and
yeah.
then it's worth it.
I
And
mean, all the time, I'll through the mail for a card, and let's say the card graded is worth $50. So I threw the mail. It cost me $15 all in to do it. There's no way I'm going to send that card to get graded, because if it comes back, even though it's, I just sent it through the mail to a guy that is, good, there's too much risk. If they fail it, now I'm in the hole. Now I'm in the hole another $24 or whatever that came out of it. There's no risk reward for the lower end autographs at the pricing structure that they have.
yeah,
when every time that they don't believe it's real, I'm going to get charged. And so that is really, I would say, the biggest concern. I love that the companies play it safe with these autographs because, authenticating an autograph that is actually fake is an absolute nightmare.
Yeah.
But the money side of it makes it difficult to grade a lot of the stuff that even if you know it's real, if they say it's not for whatever reason, you're going to be in a weird situation now if it's an autograph that already wouldn't have been worth, getting authenticated.
Yeah, and there's no, it's judge, jury, executioner. There's no appeals process.
Yep.
We actually had somebody that had a real big issue with PSA on the channel, and there was no recourse. So he actually came on the show. The video got 50,000 views, and it got Ryan, the president of PSA's attention, and they rectified it. So if you're out there and you do have issues, you can come to us. I can try to help you, but just know getting into it that their decision is final. You accept their terms and conditions when you submit something. So you're playing by their rules, and their rules are essentially like, if they deem it inauthentic, that's it. You can send it back again, but it's going to start to piss them off. They're going to fail your other stuff.
And
but there are other options.
It's money. Yeah.
PSA is not the only game in town now. You can send to Beckett. The value's a bit less, but now CCG and JSA are slabbing, and they look really nice. People are super happy with them. They seem to be fair. So those are other options too. And actually, depending on price and everything like that. But yeah, it's interesting to see what will happen with the autograph space, especially with the new entrant. And then you see PSA kind of coming in with comic grading, which they're the new entrant, versus CCG. So it'll be pretty wild.
It's such a, autograph grading or autograph authentication it's just such a hard task that I'm not surprised there are issues around it. I mean, I really don't. I mean, if an autograph is real, but it comes back as not legit, like that happens. It's more of the fact that, if this was only going to be worth $100 when slab, now is it worth to send it again? Now is it worth to send it to a different company because you're already in the hole on this money? It just makes a real weird occasion if the risk reward already wasn't incredibly good.
I'll give you an example. I had a approximately $200 card slabbed. It was a Rick Edelman 1969 Topps card. There was about a month where his brother was signing everything, and then he started signing, and it's a tricky card. He hadn't signed in a while. And what ended up happening, I sent it to PSA, and it got rejected. This was the good one. The brother one, I just tore up. You could tell. This is the good one. They kicked it. Beckett kicked it. JSA passed it. Then I sent it back to PSA. They kicked it again. And then I sent it to Beckett, and then it passed. So this thing made 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. If you count the TTM, 6 trips across the country. And I told LZ, I'm like, between the shipping and the grading fees, I think I spent like $300 and just bought it on eBay. But it was the card I got signed, and I wanted that card slabbed. So, hell or high water, that's the card that's part of my set, but it really shouldn't have been. And if you don't have a ton of money, then it sucks. You're going to lose money shipping things. So you got to be careful.
And like I said, for some cards, you look at the risk reward and it's like, man, if this thing fails my first authentication try, I'm already underwater. Like, why would I even bother doing it? I have multiple Dennis Johnson autographs. I can tell you the date that they were signed that I am not going to send out because I do not trust with how much variability he has in his autograph that I'm not going to be wasting money on them. His autographs, other than his rookie card, are pretty low end.
You have a Dennis Johnson 86 Fleer handy? I might be buying.
I might have one of those.
All the deceased 86 Fleer players I'm always buying. Always.
Yeah.
So
well, I have a lot of Dennis Johnson and Moses Malone, which are both deceased and both in the 86 set.
Those are 2 great cards. The DJ card, that's like a $2,000 card on an 86 Fleer, and Moses Malone, he signed quite a bit, so it's like 600 to 800, but still an awesome card. It was one of the harder ones. DJ was one of the harder ones to get, like in blue. Plus I'm a Celtics guy, so I wanted like a really nice one. I want like all the Celtics cards in my 86 Fleer set to be good. I want my bird to be like an 810, and I want my, like the good players, right? Thankfully Robert Parrish signs for free, so I tried him a few times until I got like a really good one. But yeah, it was fun. Cool, man. Interesting discussion. I think like the AI stuff will be fun to watch. I think it's going to be more and more. You're going to see other startups. I know Shoebox is getting into the space, and um, there will be more and more startups here. It's going to disrupt things a bit. I think you'll find PSA starting to lean on it a bit more. It'll probably start Cyborg, and then there'll be some stuff that's fully AI. Like they'll make an announcement saying, like, "Hey guys, FYI, all centering decisions are now robot decided," or
Yeah.
something like that. I think autographs will take like, I don't know, 30 years if ever. And then yeah, it'd be fun to watch. And I guess the other message too, as we were talking about autos, just be careful with like the stuff you're sitting on, and make sure you feel really confident in the provenance and the quality of the
Yeah.
autograph before you send it off, and kind of spend your money. So one other thing we were going to do, I told Matt before we jumped on, I probably should have teased this at the beginning of the show, but I'm going to let him ask. I don't know what he's going to ask me. I have no idea. I told him it could be personal, it could be card
Yeah.
related, professional related. I like to be surprised. So this will be fun. Matt can ask me any question he wants before we sign off for the show. So what do you got?
Yeah, this is one that I thought about quite a bit with some of the autograph stuff where I've seen it before, which is if you were buying a slabbed autograph, would you want to know about the history of it being submitted to other companies or not? Pass or fail with the other companies, would you want to know the history of that card?
Right. So has this made 6 trips across the country? I
Yes.
think if I was going to hold on to it forever and hand it down to my son, I think I would, because let's just assume for a second that, I've got that 86 Fleer set and there's one card in there that's counterfeit and I don't know it. I feel like the red pill in me would be like, I'd like to know, but the blue pill in me is like, it's a completed set and I'm blissfully
Yeah.
ignorant. I almost always choose the blue pill, by the way. But I think in this case, I'd like to know. I do think if I was going to sell it individually and I was starting to question it myself, then I would think like, I'd probably want a little more evidence. I do that anyway. I'll
Yeah.
typically ask about the provenance of something that's even slabbed. I'll say, where did you get this? Um, was this crossed at all? Because you run into issues there. Autograph stuff makes it sadly into slabs, and slabs are also faked. So, when I buy something, I ask a lot of uncomfortable questions, which again, if you're a noob, you're going to buy something from somebody and pay them friends and family, you're allowed to ask whatever the hell you want.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Be as inconvenient as possible. Request a video with them dancing around the card. They have to
Yeah.
say yes, or they don't do the deal, right? So
Yeah.
I think I'd want to know if it was a set. I'd want to know because the history of it might be interesting. And if I'm going to resell it, I'd really want to know because I don't want to kind of like screw anybody.
Yeah.
Like I toyed around with selling my 69 set. My son vetoed me and he wants to keep it. And I was just going through the whole set and I'm like, am I confident about every card in this set? Because some of them have
Yeah.
made a few trips across
Yeah.
the country and graded companies. And I imagine if I did sit down with somebody and they were writing me a 6-figure check for that set, I probably would spend a half hour with them and say, this is what happened with this one. This is what happened with
Yeah.
this one. Are you comfortable? Because
Yeah.
the last thing I'd want is like to do a deal. And then at the end of it, they're like, well, this card doesn't look right, and I heard some bad stuff. And then you're all, you're dealing with it after the fact. So
Yeah. Yeah,
interesting.
definitely.
Cool. All right. This is fun. Let us know what you think about AI in the comments and how it's going to impact grading. Maybe you think it'll have no impact at all. And also, if you do want to join an episode like this, at Boston Card Hunter on Instagram, just DM me like Matt did, and we'll get you on just to talk about random stuff. I think it's good to hear what's happening and what's on people's minds. So thanks again, man.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Thanks for having me on. Enjoyed the chat.
You got it.